score games, and if Deshaun Watson is the difference between getting them on the winning side of those games versus being on the losing side of those games, then I think it's absolutely a move that you have to do.
And one thing, Chris, I just wanted to clear up. There's been a ton of talk about this because of the boldface names, 3 picks, Deshaun, Christian McCaffrey. This situation was just thrown out as a bold prediction by our Panthers reporter, David Newton. Just so you know, at the desk, I do read the hot list. So it's one of those things where it's not exactly something that's on the table via Matt Rule and the owner, David Tepper. It's just something that our Panthers reporter that knows the club well says could be in the mix as a bold prediction of his sort. Essentially, David saying they are willing to move heaven and earth to get Deshaun Watson, and to that degree, 3 first-round picks and maybe the second best running back in the NFL. So just a little bit of clarity there. Chris, you played for the Cowboys, of course. Dak, contract thoughts? Go.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Jerry Jones waited too late to address the contract, and now he's looking for Dak to take a team-friendly deal. If he wanted that, he should have done that 2 off seasons ago after Dak's 3rd year, but instead he decided to pay a running back $90 million. Now, listen, I don't want to get into Zeke Elliott's pockets, but the reality is that if Jerry Jones
but you just did.
90 mil.
But it's the truth. But it's the truth, though, Key. It's the truth. If Jerry Jones wanted a discount, he would have done what the San Diego Padres did last night, which is signing Fernando Tatis to a huge deal 3 or 4 seasons before they had to. So if Jerry Jones was looking to pay Dak in that low to mid 30s, then that's something that he could have done after Dak's 3rd year. But now it's going to cost you market rate. And the reality is that Dak is 1 step closer to free agency, and he has that much more leverage. So if you're Dak Prescott, why would you take any contract that would pay you less on average annual value than the franchise tag is paying you this season? It would make no sense.
Thank you, CeCe. Thank you, CeCe, because I'm at this point right now, if I'm Dak Prescott, like, I'm starting to get pissed off by this whole scenario. Like, how much longer are you guys going to give me, or when are you finally going to give me what I deserve? What I deserve. And if I don't get it, then fine. I'll take another year. I'll risk it. I'll take another year and franchise tag me. And then let's see where I can go, where I want to go.
Well, here's the thing. He's going to have options, right? And there's going to be a team that's out there, if he's in the marketplace, free and clear with no tags, that would be willing to pay him upwards of $40 million a season. If you're Dak Prescott, you can't ignore that. So I just feel like in terms of where the Cowboys were at, where they wanted to pay him and the amount of years that they wanted the contract versus where Dak is at, there's a bit of a chasm there. And I don't think that in order to get a deal done, I don't think it's Dak moving closer to the Cowboys. I think it's the Cowboys having to go closer to Dak Prescott. It remains to be seen if Jerry Jones is willing to do that.
You know, Chris, the Dak situation's been going on now for a couple of years, and we continue to keep haggling over why, when they should, if they don't. Do we know that Dak Prescott can get that money on the open market, that everybody in the National Football League feels the same way about Dak as we do? So taking that chance and running it back and signing the franchise tag and playing on the franchise tag and then looking up a year from now when you may or may not have a great season in running that risk, I'm just not a risk taker like that I'm willing to bet the farm on a situation in a sport that's so unpredictable. That's the only thing that I have in an issue with when he gets a deal done.
Well, here's the thing, Key. It's always a quarterback-starved league. There are never enough quality quarterbacks to go around. So if Dak got to the free agent market, I have no doubt that he'd be able to command that kind of salary just because there's always going to be a team that needs to have a guy under center that can be a difference maker. And there just aren't enough of them walking around. So if you're Dak Prescott, you know that that's your leverage in this situation with the Cowboys. And if Jerry Jones is not going to give you your money, best believe somebody else will. People didn't think that Kirk Cousins was going to get paid the kind of money that he got paid once he left Washington, but look what happened. And then the Minnesota Vikings turned around and gave him more money on top of that in a contract extension. So there's always going to be opportunities for Dak to get paid. And when you're a free agent, you always get paid more money than when your team has you under control. So I have no doubt that Dak Prescott would eclipse what he's getting paid now on the franchise tag on the open market.
Is the Eagles crazy right now? What's going on with the Eagles, man? Are they all over the board, right? 1 minute they want to trade Carson Wentz, the next minute they want to trade him, but then they may draft a quarterback according to reports that could potentially be out there. They all over the board. What should they do, and when are they going to finally address the Carson Wentz situation?
Well, Key, I thought they started to address it when they moved on from Doug Peterson at the end of the season. I thought that move was about Howie Roseman trying to appease Carson Wentz just because it felt like the organization was laying the groundwork for him to be the guy moving forward, keeping in mind that this is supposed to be year one of that contract extension that he signed a couple of seasons ago. But apparently Carson wants out. He feels like the organization undermined him of sorts and that he wasn't put in a situation where he can succeed. So I don't know if there is a path for these two to come back together. So if you're Howie Roseman right now, you just got to be looking to try to get the maximum value for trading Carson Wentz, whether that's in Chicago, whether that's in Indy. He's just got to be trying to find a trade package that brings back some compensation so they can rebuild their roster.
Speaking of value, take me here to New York. What should the Jets do with the number 2 overall pick?
Well, first of all, if I'm the Jets and Joe Douglas, I'm calling down to Houston to see if Deshaun Watson is an option. And if he's not, then I think they have no choice. They have to draft a quarterback with the 2nd overall pick. There are just too many question marks around Sam Darnold and his ability to do the job. I know we want to blame the production or lack thereof the first 3 years on the dysfunction that's been around him, whether it's the head coach getting fired in his rookie year, the GM getting fired going into his 2nd year. I know there's a lot of moving parts, but ultimately we don't know who's responsible for that. Is it Adam Gase or is it Sam Darnold? And that unknown, that uncertainty, to me, is why you have to move off him, because I don't think you can afford to pass on the opportunity to draft one of these young signal callers coming out of the draft.
Why would you move on, though, from Sam? So here's how I look at it, Canty. Let's assume Trevor Lawrence is off the board. You got 4 other quarterbacks in this draft, or 3 other quarterbacks for that matter, or if you want to put Mac Jones in the situation 4, that are in college football that you don't know anything about really at the pro level, but you have a guy that you drafted 3 years ago with the 3rd pick in the draft that you've seen flashes, both good and bad, with bad coaching, 4 different offensive coordinators, and potentially going on 3 different head coaches, no receivers, no tight, like nothing. And you want to take a chance with some young dudes coming out of BYU, Ohio State, North Dakota State, and an Alabama system that was run by Steve Sarkisian? I just, I don't know, man. I don't know, Canty.
Well, here's what it is, Key. It's a potential conversation, and as a coach once told me in the NFL, potential just means you haven't done it yet. Now, you're projecting with those kids coming out of college, but when you look at Sam Darnold, you've got 3 years of tape, and you're still asking yourself the question. And Key, Coach Bill Parcells used to always say, if I keep having to ask the question, eventually I'm going to land on the answer being no. And I think we're getting to that point with Sam Darnold. And beyond that, if you're Joe Douglas and you got the 2nd overall pick, how many times are you going to have the 2nd overall pick over the course of the next 2 or 3 seasons where you can actually address it by drafting a quarterback at the top of the draft? Like, you're not going to have the 2nd overall pick that many times. So if you're in a position where you don't know about your quarterback and you have this potential for 4 quarterbacks to go in the top 10, it just makes sense if you're Joe Douglas to move off of Sam. And then the last reason I will say is this. Sam Darnold, they got to make a decision on his 5th-year option this offseason. If you're Joe Douglas, it gives you the opportunity to reset the money at the position if you draft a quarterback at 2. You don't have to commit those types of resources to Sam moving forward. You can allocate that to the rest of your roster. That gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you're going to rebuild your program.
Last thing I would say here, if what Canty says is true, and you get to a situation where they selected quarterback at number 2, that would mean, I understand there's been a regime change, but that would mean over the last 4 years, the Jets have picked a quarterback twice in the top 3. And that's just something you have to just get your mind around. And speaking of 3, I'm sorry, I'm seeing ghosts. I know it's one thing. There is no way. There's no way I want that guy saying those words on national television. I understand he didn't say it. It was leaked out there. But if that's how you truly feel, I don't want you as my quarterback. I can't have you as my quarterback. Chris, thank you very much. You got a radio show today. You got Get Up today. You're all over the place.
Wait, hold on, man, before you go.
What you got?
Lakers and the Nets.
We got a bet, CC.
That's a big deal.
I got a bet, CC.
So you're right?
No, we got a bet, but then Jay Will this morning tried to flip the script. Oh, I'm going to take the Lakers up. And then I had to call him out on the carpet for it.